Hello everyone, this is Group 4's case study presentation. Group members include Olatutu, Emily, Taisha, and Brianna. First, we're going to look at the Toms River case study. The population who were at risk were individuals that lived in Toms River, New Jersey, and received drinking water from the community water supply. They were exposed to solid and liquid waste dumped into the groundwater by the company Ciba-Geigy. The children living in town were the most susceptible at the time. During the 80s and 90s, there were an increase in children with cancer, especially leukemia, tumors of the brain, and nervous system. The chemicals that were involved were trichloroethene and tetrachloroethene. The mode of entry was ingestion. This is due to the chemical waste being disposed into areas such as Reach Farm and private and community wells, causing drinking water and contamination. Two major health effects of trichloroethene are liver damage and unconsciousness. The two major health effects of tetrachloroethene are that it can cause liver and kidney effects. It also causes changes in mood, memory, attention, and reaction time. These chemicals were found in private wells and certain community wells. This leads to contamination of groundwater, which the town's drinking water came from. Prevention could have been possible if Ciba-Geigy could have taken an extra step to test the solid and liquid waste they produced before disposing of it. Also, if Ciba-Geigy could have disposed of the waste through a waste treatment plant instead of disposing of it on their own property or into Toms River or even into the Atlantic Ocean. Pros and cons of the interventions from a company standpoint. Ciba-Geigy participated in a public health assessment, which showed the community that they were willing to take steps to improve. Reach Farm did not actively participate in the pollution found on its site. However, they participated in a public health assessment. The Dover Township Municipal Landfill participated in a public health assessment. However, the source of contamination wasn't identified. Pros and cons of interventions from a government standpoint. The New Jersey Department of Health and New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection investigated the community water supply at the residents' request in 1996. They identified a tremor in the Parkway well field, and those wells were closed and the water treatment system was expanded. The New Jersey Department of Health and Agency of Toxic Substances and Disease Registry took community feedback in the form of a Citizens Actions Committee and the Childhood Cancer Cluster and the Ocean County Health Department to develop a public health response plan, which included evaluation of childhood cancer rates, public health evaluations of potential environmental contamination, public health education, and lastly, case control epidemiologic studies. Our group selected Flint, Michigan water contamination as our case study. The population at risk was every resident that lived within Flint, Michigan that had access to Flint's water supply. To break it down a little more, Flint's population is a relatively poor population. Flint, Michigan used to be a great up-and-coming community with the automobile factories and businesses up there. Once that took a decline, leaving the population of Flint without jobs, the population became poor. A large proportion of the population in Flint consists of African Americans. It fits the patterns of an urban neighborhood, pattern of poor living in many physically distressed neighborhoods that sadly include environmental deterioration that includes water supply and other infrastructure systems. Studies show that the population that suffered the most were children. In Flint, 9,000 children were supplied lead-contaminated water for 18 months. The Michigan Civil Rights Commission concluded that the poor governmental response to the Flint water crisis was a result of systematic racism. Chemicals that were involved, the first one was lead. So 99,000 residents were exposed to the drinking water source when it was switched from the Detroit Water Authority to Flint water systems, which caused this whole thing. Ingestion, inhalation, and skim absorption of contaminated water is the mode of entry to the bodies of Flint residents. Using this water to not only drink, but to cook with, to bathe in, anything you use water for in your home to clean with, causes all those forms of entry to the body. The health effects for children include damage to the brain and nervous system, slowed growth and development, learning and behavior problems, hearing and speech problems. For adults, people with prolonged exposure to lead may also be at risk for high blood pressure, heart disease, kidney disease, and reduced fertility. The second chemical that was involved were trihalomethanes, TTHM for short. Trihalomethanes enter the body via inhalation, ingestion, and absorption through the skin of chlorinated drinking water. Health effects of TTHMs include bladder cancer, skin cancer, and impairment of fetal growth and development. Prevention. The Flint water crisis could have been prevented through better implementations of site-specific risk management via water safety plans, voluntary improvement programs such as partnerships for safe water, and area-wide organization program. Pros and cons from a city official standpoint. Flint does switch back to Detroit water supplier, Great Lakes Water Authority. An extensive lead service line replacement effort has been underway since 2016. Cons include elevated blood levels of children less than 5 years old living within the Flint zip code after the switch to Flint water. A city test revealed high lead content and other metals seeping from the city's aging pipes into the water into its homes and businesses. The water supply change was also the cause of an outbreak for Legionnaire's disease from 2014 to 2015. Multiple bacteria were detected in the water. Officials failed to apply corrosion inhibitors to the water, and Michigan Department of Environmental Quality dropped 2 samples from its initial report on lead levels from the city, which put the result within federally mandated levels. Pros and cons from the government. On December 2015, the governor of Michigan declares a state of emergency in Genesee County due to lead in Flint's drinking water. Shortly after, President Obama also declared a state of emergency, meaning FEMA can move in to authorize and provide equipment and resources to the people that were affected. Provide federal funding will help to cover the cost of providing water filters, and other items. The delays in response to the EPA's recommendations of actions necessary to reduce and minimize the presence of lead and other contaminations in the water supply include not providing enough and sufficient information for the EPA to fully understand and respond promptly to the current deficiencies. So this slide is filled with a bunch of cons, sadly. The best part about all of this and what really woke up the government was the community advocacy. So a coalition of citizens and groups sued the city and state officials in order to secure safe drinking water for Flint residents. In March 2016, they took additional action to address an urgent need, filing a motion to ensure that all residents, including children, the elderly, and others unable to reach the city's free water distribution centers, would have access to safe drinking water through bottled water delivery service or a robust filter installation and maintenance program. The result of that, from March of 2016 to November of 2016, a federal judge sided with Flint residents and ordered the implementation of door-to-door delivery of bottled water to every home without a properly installed and maintained faucet filter. A more momentous win for this group, with a major settlement requiring the city to replace the city's thousands of lead pipes with funding from the state, guaranteeing further funding from comprehensive tap water testing, a faucet filter installation and education program, and free bottled water through the following summer, and continued health programs to help residents deal with the residual effects of Flint's tainted water. The community advocacy really helped this community gain momentum and push forward the right that they deserve for safe drinking water for their families. These are Group 4's references that were used to find all this information. We all appreciate your time for listening, and thank you so much.